A very warm welcome to all of you in this International Mentors Forum. I would like to tell you something about this platform. This is a platform where we connect with our esteemed experts and visionaries from across the globe to explore thought-provoking topics that inspire growth, learning, and global understanding. Stay fasten your seatbelts as we're going to dive into today's engaging discussion. So today we have invited Madam Blanka from Holland. Very warm welcome, Madam. How are you, ma'am?
Hello, good evening or good morning, as you said, depending on your time zone. Thank you for having me. I'm all good and I am ready to share everything I have and hopefully learn something from your experience as well so we can share together.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam. Madam, please introduce yourself before our audience so that our audience may get to know about you. That who is Madam Blanka. So please introduce yourself comprehensively. So so floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. As was stated before, I'm Blanka Pawlak. I'm currently based in Poland. I'm an educator and teacher as you as well. My niche is business English and English for specific purposes. I also design my own materials, and for last couple years, to be more precise, around 6 years, I've been also working as a teacher trainer and as a teacher around 15 years. I'm Delta qualified educator and certified teacher trainer. I also work as a public speaking coach, and I'm currently on the road and pursuing my studies in cognitive science. In my field, I try to integrate science of learning, cognitive science, educational psychology, but also mindfulness and critical thinking into any kind of educational approach. I'm a huge advocate for C, and this one stands for community, colleagues, creativity, creation, collaboration, and continuous development. I'm a founder of For English Sake, a lab and a place that is inspired by educational psychology, philosophy, psychology, and science. And this is the place not only for teachers, but also for students. Additionally, at the same time, I am proud to be an Educast International team member, and I am an academic consultant and event coordinator there.
That's a great, very comprehensive introduction, and such a great introduction as well. I would say because
Thank you.
the teacher like who have having Delta certification, definitely that is speaking louder than the words. So in this way, we can say that you have a very precise and compacted your CV that is speaking louder than the words. So, because every, I just want to tell you that the topic that today we have selected for our discussion, so that even though it was already shared on flyer, that is was about, why do some learners hesitate to speak English even after years of study? This is our topic on which today we are going to have a discussion. So in this regard, I have prepared some questions which I'm going to ask because I definitely, I guess that when I will be asking those questions, you will be giving answer quite expressively, and it needs to be. In this regard, the very first question I would like to ask you here that what are the most common psychological barriers that stop learners from speaking English confidently? What are those psychological barriers?
Hmm. That is very important question, I would say, because from my observation and years of teacher training and also being a teacher myself, I get the impression that we teachers wear many hats. Not only do we have to teach language or any other subject, but we also have to manage the classroom, communicate with parents, communicate with students, sometimes with the board, with principal. So in general, we are usually snowed under many tasks. And here there is also no one easy answer and the one that fits all. When I think, and I did some research, and I also share what I'm going to share with you. It's also based on what I spotted during teacher training and also working with my own students. That some psychological barriers that not always stop, but for sure slow down learners from speaking fluently and confidently is for sure the first to mention is language anxiety. I guess that we as human beings don't want to be seen as incompetent. We don't want to be seen as a lower level speaker. So this fear of embarrassment or maybe negative evaluation, it might truly inhibit very spontaneous and natural speech because we simply want to be seen as professionals. Even though we not always use second language in our professional background. Then, when I also think about some other barriers, I think that from time to time, we let go to the stage our inner critic. We all have our criticism, so it can truly decrease the whole process and low self-efficacy, meaning that we as learners very often doubt that our ability to express ourselves is enough. So basically we want to be better, and there's nothing wrong with, pursuing being better. However, very often this inner critic is getting overly critical and stops us from truly using the language. Then I think it's also connected with perfectionism because we all see on TV, on the radio, in podcasts, everywhere, we see some type of English that people use or any other language. So we get the impression that this is our model that we should really chase. And there's nothing wrong with having a role model that we would like to really acquire to. However, the question is it really something that I can comprehend and get into a couple of months, for instance? Or maybe is it something really helpful and necessary for me? So being perfectionist, as everything in life, I believe, has pros and cons. I think it's the matter of balance. Then when I also think about some psychological barrier, Mm, I think that there might be some idea with our identity. Because when we think about our mother tongue, we feel absolutely comfortable and confident, even though we haven't graduated any philology. Yeah, but this is our mother tongue. So we are so used to using this language that even though we slip from time to time, we don't even notice. But when it comes to second language learning, we might have this internal conflict that, okay, in my mother tongue, I speak confidently, but maybe in another language, I am not going to be so good. And maybe I am also afraid of losing my authentic voice because we have lots of studies and research proving that language shapes the way we see the reality. Meaning, if we speak multiple languages, we might see and describe reality in slightly different way. So, some people might be afraid of losing our true core. And the last thing
Definitely.
that yeah, I don't know. Have you noticed that? Because I see myself completely different when I speak Spanish, the language that I'm currently learning. I just have completely different feelings and emotions because of the music, the rhythm, and the tone, and basically the whole cultural context that is related to Spanish language. And when I think about, for instance, my years in high school when I learned German, I have completely different memories and connotations because language shapes not only the reality but also our personality.
Yes, definitely. But when it comes to making mistakes, so these are also called psychological barriers. Whenever we are just communicating, so that time we always think about it that the sentences which I'm right now currently using are speaking in front of audience might not be grammatically correct. So this way we commit more mistakes whenever we are pondering it hard to find out whether it is valid, whether this sentence is according to the grammar structure or not. So that time when we are over thinking over it, so that definitely we do more mistakes, and we
Exactly.
become reluctant. We become unable to speak as it should be
Hmm.
should be spoken at that time. So what do you think about it? That how these element of your fear of speaking wrong English can play the part when we are speaking English, and how it can be covered up.
You are absolutely correct. What you mentioned before, it's also something that can fall into this category, both of fear in terms of making mistakes, but also psychological barrier, because making mistakes is very natural for us in any learning process. And as cognitive science and recent, not only extremely recent studies, but in general, for some time we know that mistakes and errors are true gate to neuroplasticity, meaning we must make mistakes because this is a signal for our brain that certain pattern in behavior has to be changed. However, when we have this past negative experiences that we've been punished for failures, or maybe we were absolutely stuck to the idea of passing any test with flying colors only just to get grades, where failure meant that we are not going to move on. And maybe in terms of the group that we've been learning particular skill, we might have been ostracized and criticized. This is going to link to our habit loop. So our brain is going to respond into this way that, okay, mistakes are something that I should avoid because I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to feel scared, petrified, and exposed as someone who struggles. So, yes, this fear is a huge factor. I wouldn't say it's the only one, but for sure it can reflect something that we call evaluation anxiety. So, this hesitation can also come from not only the fear itself, but fear plus a lack of automaticity. So basically, the situation when we process the speech and it takes too much time and it's too much energy for us and our capacity. So basically, we get to pause. We get to stop, so then our fear level is increasing because we find ourselves in the situation that, oh, I stopped. Maybe someone is going to judge me or criticize. And then it's a
Yes,
kind of
definitely.
loop. Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
also related, I guess, with social comparison. So, this true belief, I would say in quotation marks, that other people speak better, no matter what, I am definitely worse. Then we have to take into comparison and into consideration in general that not only fear is something that is behind the hesitation, but also the culture, because let's think about any communication styles. In some cultures, this is very natural that silence is healthy. Since very young age, we are taught, people are taught that taking a break, slowing down, pausing is very good. There are some
Mhm.
cultures that value accuracy over fluency, and I would say vice
Yes.
versa. So it highly depends on the cultural context as well. So I think that fear of mistakes might reveal deeper psychological and also socio-cultural issues, but not only
Definitely.
something that we
Mhm.
see on the surface.
Definitely that it is. And definitely there are a lot of, barriers that are occurring at the same time, psychological, social, culture, or something like that. They always play a very, important role. But I guess that they become more nervous whenever they are speaking, whenever they are facing psychological barriers, whenever they're facing social barriers, whenever they are facing those audience who know them well, that how much effective he can be, and especially when your
Mhm.
class fellows with whom you have been studying for a long, so that time when you start to speak English,
Yes.
so that time they start smiling. So what the which is that some mistakes you're committing, so that time you become more reluctant, committed, and you become more accurate, and you become more technical, that I should need to speak according to the grammar structure. Here comes subject, and here I have to add adjectives, and here I have to use proper use of action words, a
Exactly.
verb which need to be added here, and then there should be a proper article which I'm just skipping. Or so that time when you speak technically, so that time you are unable to speak a single sentence even. So because
Yes.
when you when you speak something, so that time you but I just want to say one more thing over here. Classroom environment plays a very important role when it comes to speaking. So that time when the teachers they are teaching in the classroom, so if they're speaking